Hi, I'm John with TSG Multimedia. Welcome to Model Railroading 101. As usual, someone's in front of the camera, but I'm also behind the camera. Yep, see, here I am, behind the camera too. We've been covering basic tools for the past couple of months, and in this episode of Model Railroading 101, I'm going to be a little bit more specific. I'm going to talk about my own experience with starting out, including which tools I have found to be invaluable. At this point, my main interest is bringing models to life with DCC and sound. So this program will focus mostly on the kinds of tools you need to make that happen, especially if you're just starting out. I have some experience with this because I just started adding DCC and sound to my models last year. I hope that the information I provide to you here today will encourage you and help you get started working on your own models as well. I'm modeling mostly N-scale, but I have done some HO scale stuff such as the U36B DCC and sound installation that came out in January. The first recommendation I have is for a clean, well-lit, organized workspace. I have the clean and well-lit aspect fully covered because I'm almost always making a video when I work on my models. I realize most modelers are not making videos when they work on their projects, and your needs for light may vary depending on your age and eyesight. All I will say is more light is always better, because if you can't see what you're working on, you're way more likely to mess it up. Staying organized for me is as simple as tackling a project in distinctly separate phases. For example, when I disassemble a model, I use a container to keep all the parts together. Having parts all over your workspace creates clutter very quickly, and it makes it far more likely that something important will get lost. Once the model is taken apart, I'll put all the tools I don't need for the next step away and replace them with the ones I do need for the next step. If you break a project up into smaller steps like this, I think it takes a little more time, but I find that it helps me maintain my focus on the task at hand, and I need all the help I can get. Using corrective lenses is critical for me. If I can't see what I'm doing, all it does is frustrate me in a way that makes me more likely to smash the model than to improve it. Magnifying lamps like this, as well as strong reading glasses and one of these magnifying visor contraptions, help me get the job done. Depending what the scope of your project is, you may end up using tools that are dangerous when used carelessly. A rotary tool, a soldering iron, razor blade, or even a screwdriver can cause injury if you don't use it properly. Use the right tool for the job, wear eye protection, and take intermittent breaks to stay fresh. Some glues and other chemical applications can cause respiration problems, so keep your workspace ventilated too. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the tools and supplies I use frequently. How about this? The internet. You can find all kinds of articles and photos posted to groups and blogs that will help you get ideas for your own projects. You can also use the internet to shop for some of the tools I'm about to tell you about. Your local hardware store is not likely to carry everything you need. Remember, Google is your friend. Small screwdrivers are indispensable. If you can't get your model taken apart, it's pretty hard to work on the inside. For HO scale locomotives, you can't even get the shell off without a screwdriver in most cases. DCC decoders. There are a lot of different companies that make DCC decoders, and you definitely need one if you're going to change your locomotive to DCC. So far, I've been really happy with ESU because one thing I've learned since I started paying attention to model railroading is that they have not only really great decoders, but they also make it real easy to get very good, if not exact, sound file matches for almost any common prototype using their loc programmer in combination with their decoders. You need a short length of test track if you're going to test your installations before trying to run them on a real layout. I dug up this old crap from when I was a kid and soldered wires straight to the track. The other ends of the wires go into my loc programmer. Alligator clip test leads are also very helpful if you want to temporarily connect something to a power source. Small speakers are needed for the sound to be heard. It's also critical to have a speaker enclosure so the sound is more realistic. You can buy speaker enclosures or you can craft your own. I use CA glue for bonding plastic to metal and plastic cement for bonding plastic to plastic. While this is not always necessary for installing DCC, it can be very helpful for putting small detail parts that inevitably fall off back on the model. I like using double-sided foam tape like this to stick speakers up inside the shell of a locomotive. and it can also be used to stick a decoder on a chassis. Kapton insulating tape is a must-have to prevent unwanted electrical contacts that will destroy a decoder. The cool thing about Kapton tape is that it's really thin, so you don't have to worry about the thickness of it causing problems when you're trying to put the shell back on the model or something like that. It's good to have a multimeter or a current tester like this one. You can use any kind of multimeter to detect the unwanted electrical contacts I just mentioned. If you want to accurately measure amperage or voltage and that kind of thing, you may want a digital meter. Sheet styrene can be used to help mount LEDs and to fabricate things like light baffles and speaker enclosures. It's available in varying thicknesses, and it's very easy to put together using the liquid plastic cement I was talking about a minute ago. RTV sealant is great for ensuring that your fabricated speaker enclosures work properly. If you don't seal your speaker enclosures, it will result in an unwanted reduction in sound quality. Opaque paint helps prevent light leaks. Black is the best. Keep in mind, I'm not talking about fine painting here. I'm talking about paint in places where no one will ever see it. I used this paint and brush to help fix a light leak in an N-scale locomotive. I guess I should have given you the spoiler alert before telling you. This light leak fix is something that I'm going to feature on one of my upcoming videos. A good soldering iron is also critical. Not like this one. I mean like this. This makes soldering way easier. I started out using that piece of junk I've had sitting in a toolbox for years. It got hot and it did work, but when I got this variable temperature one, it was like turning a light on in a dark room. Not only does it allow me to set the temperature, but it heats up and cools down really fast, and it provides a very safe holder to set the iron down while I prepare wires for the next contact. Of course, if you're going to do soldering, you need to also have some solder and flux. Solder for obvious reasons, and flux helps the solder go where it's supposed to go. Small gauge wire is also very helpful, especially if you're doing DCC installation on N-scale models. This is another excellent product from ESU. 36 gauge stranded and color-coded wire. It keeps things neat and it allows you to maintain your NMRA color coding inside the model. The spool in the middle of the picture is enameled magnet wire. It's not color-coded, but it's really thin, so it's great for low voltage applications like speakers or lights. Speaking of lights, LEDs can also be really helpful. If you're going to put lights in your models or replace the lights that they come with, I would suggest using LEDs. Regular and surface-mounted LEDs can cover just about any application you need for light. Warm white is probably the best color to go after because it mimics the full-size train headlights the best. If your DCC decoder does not have resistance built into its light function outputs, you need resistors to limit the flow of electricity so that the LEDs don't get blown out. These are 750k ohm resistors that I use because if you put 12 volts of power directly onto an LED, it'll burn it out instantly. You may want to experiment a little bit with your resistors to find just the right amount of resistance to make the headlights look the way you want them to, but these seem to do the trick for me. Heat shrink tubing comes in a lot of different sizes, and it's the best way to insulate electrical connections. Sprung tweezers help hold stuff in place so that you have two hands available. This is especially helpful when soldering wires to a DCC board. Even with two pairs of these things, I often find myself wanting more. Small jeweler's tools of all types are also very helpful. The most important ones I've found so far are the needle nose pliers and small wire cutters. You can get decent tools like this in craft stores and even on Amazon if you live out in the boondocks someplace and can't get to a store easily. Small wire strippers like this come in handy quite frequently. Sometimes you can strip small gauge wires with your fingernails. These strippers are for when the insulation on the wire is too stubborn for that. I've always stripped larger wires with scissors, but that does not work with the tiny wiring I use inside models. Small drill bits like this are excellent for drilling out little holes in plastic, like a speaker enclosure or an LED mount that you fabricate out of styrene. They're also helpful for replacing small detail parts that might get broken off while you're working on the model. Files can be used to file out small channels in material so that wires will fit without hindering the reassembly process. They're also useful for shaping or contouring pieces of styrene for things like a light baffle. A rotary tool like this can be an even better way to add small channels into a metal frame. It can also be used to cut away material in order to fit in a speaker. Sometimes very small models even need metal cut away to fit a decoder in there. Remember, if you're going to use a rotary tool, always use eye protection. You won't be doing much modeling if you can't see. And finally, a box like this to keep it all in one place. This particular box doesn't fit everything that I've shown you, but it fits a lot of the stuff that I've shown you. A lot of the tools and stuff like that fit in here when I'm not using them. This is nice because then the next time I need to do a project, I just have to pull my box out and it's all there. It's also handy to keep it close by so that when I'm done with a certain phase of a project, I can put everything away that I don't need. The point to all this is to create a frustration-free environment so that you can actually enjoy the hobby. It's really not fun if you're in a dark room and everything's cluttered and you can't find anything, and then you're working on something and a small part sticks to your arm or something like that and it falls, and next thing you know, you're having to crawl around on the floor for a half hour looking for stuff. That sucks. Keep things organized, keep things clean, keep things simple. Anyway, I hope this information helps give you some of the knowledge you need to get started on your own modeling adventures. One really cool aspect to the process that I find very satisfying is the problem solving that scale modeling provides. I've really enjoyed the work I've done on my model so far, and I have to tell you that I get a real thrill and a genuine sense of satisfaction and accomplishment when I get a model back together and put it on the track for the first time. That really is the reward, isn't it? Hey, it works, right? Did I forget anything? Put a comment below if you think I forgot to mention a critical tool or something like that. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you find this kind of program helpful or entertaining. And please share it with your friends if you know someone else who also would find it helpful or entertaining. Thanks for watching, and make it a great day.